Hi, Jeff Slakey here at the Alderbrook Resort on Thursday, January 3rd, part of the Affordable Workforce Housing Summit put on by Peninsula Credit Union and many other great organizations throughout the county. I'm sitting now with Emily Grossman, the Policy and Strategy Advisor in the Community Services and Housing Division for the Washington State Department of Commerce. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for being here and
Thank
talking to
you.
me. Tell me first off a little bit about the Department of Commerce and how housing and community services kind of folds into that.
Yeah, sure. Well, the Department of Commerce, we like to call it the utility drawer of Washington state government. We're a cabinet agency. We're a relatively small agency, but we have a lot of programs, over 100 programs that range from economic development to infrastructure programs, local government assistance to housing. So the connection with housing is that our Community Services and Housing Division, it's the largest division in the agency. We have the Housing Trust Fund. We administer the Housing Trust Fund, which is the state's largest source of funding for low-income housing capital projects. We also administer the state's Consolidated Homeless Grant, which is the state's funding source for homeless housing and services.
Talk to me a little bit about the missing middle. We hear a lot about that now, and define that for me.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. You know, I hear it sort of talked about in two ways. And the first way is in terms of middle-income households. That there is this portion of the housing inventory that's not being built, sort of in the middle of the continuum. That is affordable to folks who are making roughly 80 to 125%. It's defined in different ways in terms of the income levels, but that those households are not being built for. We're getting housing that is for more expensive for folks who make more money, and then we have low-income housing that's being built because it's being subsidized by the government. So there's that sort of gap in the middle. And the other way that I hear it talked about is in terms of the actual housing stock. So we get a lot of single-family homes in Washington State. We love single-family homes. It's by far the primary type of home in our housing inventory. And we also are getting a lot of large multifamily developments in fast-growing areas. But what we're not getting, which turns out to be the affordable type of housing for these households we're talking about, is sort of your medium density housing. So your smaller multifamily units, 2 to 4 units, clustered housing types, smaller units. That's considered middle missing housing types. So it's another definition of it, but it's also another piece of the puzzle.
We're talking a lot about Mason County here today through the summit. Explain to me some of the missing middle that we see in Mason County and how it compares with the rest of the state and is unique to the rest of the state.
Yeah, well, it's really just like what I described. Mason County, the vast majority of your housing stock is single-family homes. I believe the number that's coming to my head is about 77% of your homes are single-family. And your median family income is pretty decent here in Mason County. It's about $64,000, which lines up pretty well with the state average. But where I think that there's really remarkable situation in Mason County is with your median household income. So your median household income is different than family income because it's not families. It's 2 or more unrelated persons, or it includes your single family households. And your median income for those households is around $25,000. It's the lowest in the state except for Wahkiakum County. And there's an index called the Housing Affordability Index, and there's a special subset of that for your median household income households, which includes your first-time homeowners, typically your seniors, and that is 35 in Mason County, which means that your typical median household only has 35% of the income that they need to purchase a typical starter home in Mason County.
Wow.
And so to me, that's sort of the stark situation in Mason County that I plan to address a little bit today.
The legislature back in 2014 approved a property tax exemption that is available here in Mason County. It's almost unique to Mason County.
It is unique.
The demographics there. Talk to me about this exemption Has it been successful in attracting multifamily housing?
No multifamily housing has been built as a result of the tax exemption. And the agency that undertook this study, it's a government agency, actually they're the legislative agency, they're called the JLARC. Their report primarily cites just sort of lack of familiarity with tax credits within the community or tax exemptions and how they work as the primary reason why. I think that there are probably a lot of other reasons too. It's really difficult to get builders to come and build smaller scale multifamily projects in rural counties. So I'm sure it was multiple factors, but the JLARC felt that the primary reason was just lack of familiarity with those types of financing incentives.
And there's a potential that if no one continues to take advantage of this, a few years from now it's going to go away.
It will go away. Yeah, actually the JLARC's recommendation to the legislature is to just let it lapse and go back to the drawing board.
Are you in the Department of Commerce? Is it up to you to explain to the people or the builders that would come into Mason? Is it the county leaders, the city leaders? Who's the one that should be the conduit between the builders and the ones who know about this availability?
Well, I would think it would be the community. So it would be your local government officials, your planning department, your financing organizations, and also I think your nonprofit housing organizations. A lot of times can be a really great conduit and help explain how these sorts of things work, because they work with these kinds of tools for low-income housing projects, and maybe they have a little bit more of that know-how that they can bring to the table.
Are there any plans this upcoming session to address any further issues to help in this affordable workforce housing throughout the state or maybe even Mason County?
Yeah, I think we'll see. We're going to see a lot of different things happening this session. One that I know of for sure that they will try to address is condo liability. Condominiums are considered to be a really good source of missing middle first-time homeowner housing if they're built in a way that produces affordability on the other end. Mm-hmm. But a lot of folks feel that because of the way that our liability laws are set up around condominium construction, that it's a deterrent, and we're not getting those condos that we need. And there have been a lot of attempts to address it. And this year, I think that there will be a really strong and maybe a successful attempt.
Other than trying to take advantage of the thing the legislature passed in 2014, are there some other ideas that you could share with Mason County, perhaps, on getting the ball rolling a little bit quicker on this?
On the multifamily exemption?
Or just trying to get us out of the situation that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, I think that there are a number of different tools that could at least be explored that maybe haven't been, and I hope to talk about some of those today. For instance, there was a law passed by the legislature last year that sort of clarified that local governments and government agencies who own surplus property, they can go ahead and sell that at reduced under market rates for the production of affordable housing. So they can sell it or lease it for free if they want to, and that is constitutional. So I think that maybe we can do a little bit more exploring of some other tools and see if any of those feel to the community like they're possibilities.
Emily Grossman is a policy and strategy advisor in the Community Services and Housing Division for the Washington State Department of Commerce. Thank you for talking with me this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.